Hi, I'm Mike Manjos, and this is our latest segment of 10 in 10. We're going to be talking about 10 of my favorite Rolexes in 10 minutes. Let's see how I do. So the first piece we're going to talk about today is the white gold Submariner, also known as the Smurf. It's got a great name, but it's even a better watch. So it's made of white gold, which for most people they would think, why would I want a precious metal dive watch? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is it's got a great balance and weight to it because it's white gold. They make their own white gold, so it's got a specific color to it that only Rolex has. And then it also has this amazing dial. So it's got a blue dial, but not your traditional bright blue. It's got a flat blue, they're in the Smurf name, and it's just great legibility, a diver watch, incredible weight, balance, glide lock clasp. It's probably the most comfortable watch you'll ever wear, and distinctive because only that blue comes in white gold. So you could have the yellow gold, different blue, stainless steel, obviously black and green, but this white gold Smurf, specific to Rolex, just an amazing piece, one of my all-time favorites. So the second piece we're going to talk about today is the Rolex GMT-Master, but specifically the white gold version, and not just the regular white gold version, but in 2019 they introduced a version with a METEORITE dial. The METEORITE dial is something that they only make in two models currently. One is in the Daytona and on this particular GMT-Master, and each piece is truly unique. They take a piece of meteorite, they slice it, they acid wash it, and because it's a natural occurring material, every single one is different. And there's just something cool about having a GMT, my favorite complication, white gold, so it's got a great feel, and knowing like mine is different than everybody else's. As much as everybody complains that, oh, Rolexes are everywhere, they make so many of them, well, this particular one with a METEORITE dial is truly a unique one of piece. So the third watch we're going to talk about today is a Submariner. And not just any Submariner, but arguably the most perfect sport watch ever made because it's the original. Now, I hate the name No Date because truly a Submariner shouldn't have a date. It's the original purest version of it. Today, the more popular version has a date, but this is truly the original 114060. Now it's a maxi case, has the ceramic bezel, has the classic black dial, the markers are white gold, the luminous glows. It is the most practical, easy to wear, most useful Rolex I believe that's ever made, and probably one that will never go out of the line. They'll just keep improving it generationally and something you'll pass down to your kid. Just an amazing piece, classic watch, probably the perfect watch ever made. So the next piece we're going to talk about is a platinum day date, and a very specific one, the blackout. It's a 41 millimeter platinum piece, but it's got, instead of the traditional glacier dial, it has a matte black dial with black numbers. Very under the radar, very distinctive, super heavy piece. You know you're wearing this watch, it's 41 millimeters, it's platinum. But the thing I really love about it is every new generation Rolex, when this came out, took it to the next level. So the early platinum pieces, because of the weight on the bracelet, would stretch out and they would show wear after 5 or 10 years. So Rolex engineered a new piece to go in the bracelet out of ceramic that would hold the pins in place and make it last a generation without showing any wear. So it's a distinctive watch. You could wear it every day, and in 10 years, it's going to look just as new as it came out of the box. So it's an amazing Rolex, love the platinum pieces, and 41 millimeters, perfect size. So the next piece we're talking about is probably one of the most iconic Rolexes, and that's the day date or the presidential. It has been something that's been worn by presidents for generations and an iconic Rolex model. The thing I love about this version, personally, I love the fact that Rolex had a 41 millimeter that they had come out with. It was a much bigger size, it was a much bigger bezel. And only after a couple of years, they got some feedback that the balance wasn't perfect. They re-engineered the day date, made it a 40 millimeter, made the bezel fluting smaller, just made a balance on the watch that just made it perfect. And the fact that they were willing to, after introducing a new version, change it quickly because they just thought they could do it better is truly the epitome of Rolex. Always striving to be perfect, always striving to improve it. And it's not about the cost or the time, it's about making that perfect watch. And I think on this piece, they nailed it. So now we finally got to my favorite watch, and it's my daily driver, my Batman. It's the Rolex GMT-Master, so it keeps 2 time zones. It's a watch I use all the time for traveling. As soon as I'm landing in a new city, I'm changing the hand. It's keeping that 3rd hand on my local time, so it keeps me connected to home. But it's also one of the most durable, practical, easy to wear Rolexes. I swim with it, I shower with it, you never have to worry about taking it off. And it's something that's beautiful about Rolex is I can wear it every day, I beat it up, but it still holds together. I've had this for probably 6 or 7 years. Yeah, it's got some bangs on it, some love on it, but it's something that's still mine and a personal connection to it that I love. I'm hoping I'll be able to pass down to my kids. Hopefully they'll get as much enjoyment out of it as I do, and hopefully they'll get to travel as much as I do as well. So the next watch we're going to talk about is actually my 2nd favorite sports watch, because it's the 2nd one I own and wear all the time, and it's the Deepsea, specifically the James Cameron version. So the Deepsea Sea Dweller is their professional diver's watch. Now, why do I need a professional diver's watch? I don't. I barely go to the deep end of my pool. But the watch is indestructible. It's a great size at 44 millimeters. I like bigger watches. I like heavier watches. It's got a lot of great features to it, besides the fact that it's basically indestructible and I'm good at banging stuff around. But it's also got a great adjustment in the clasp. You can literally change it while it's on your wrist. It's got great signature feel. It's got the prettiest dial, I think, on any Rolex, because it's got this fading blue to black. It's kind of to mimic the depth of the ocean. They've done professional diving with James Cameron. They did some of the special events with him going to the deepest places on the earth. But it's a watch that I wear on a special occasion, and it just feels like I've got something really cool on my wrist, and I just love that dial. So the next piece we're going to talk about is a very special Rolex and a kind of unusual one. Now, it's one of my favorite complications, the GMT-Master. So it's got the traditional dual time zone. But for the 50th anniversary, Rolex came out with a yellow gold version with a black bezel. But instead of having a traditional black dial, they went with this anniversary green dial. And when it first came out, it had mixed reactions. Some people were like, it's a little green for me. Especially on a big gold watch. But over time, every time you look at it, every time you get a chance to put it on, there's something that's just special about that dial. And Rolex, to me, in most cases, the special part of Rolex is that dial. And it was so distinctive, so particular to that GMT, only in that gold version, that now every time I see one, I fall in love with it and I'm like, God, they were so far ahead of their time. I didn't see it at first. Now I think it's an amazing piece. So the next piece we're going to talk about is the Rolex Pepsi, one of the most iconic names in the Rolex family of GMT Masters. It's something that they made originally back in the 50s, became famous for Pan Am Airlines. All their pilots wore GMT Masters with a red and blue bezel. And they did evolution upon evolution upon evolution, and then finally in 07, they came out with the new Cerachrom bezels, but they couldn't do a mixed bezel color, so they were all black. Now, obviously, purists were disappointed, and then 7 years later, lo and behold, they figure out the technology, and they come out with a red and blue Pepsi GMT Master in white gold. Now, to me, this was perfect, because I like heavy, I like white gold sport watches. It was the perfect mix. Obviously, a lot of people were looking for stainless steel version of it. It took us a few more years till we got to that point. But that original first new version Pepsi, one of the most perfect watches I think Rolex ever made. So the last piece we're going to talk about today is one of my favorite pieces, and it's the Rolex Sky Dweller. Now the Rolex Sky Dweller is one of their newest introductions, 42 millimeters, annual calendar. Everybody knows an annual calendar was originally a Patek complication, always in fancy watches, in very expensive watches. And Rolex took this and integrated it to a very specific Rolex design. The bezel actually rotates to affect the changes of the movement, something nobody else had ever done. They took and make their most complicated movement and put it into a steel watch with a white gold bezel that made it eminently affordable for many people. They brought it out at a $14,400 price range when they could have charged 2 and 3 times that amount because it was an annual calendar. But they really made it a traditional piece. It's perfect balance size. It's a great complication, and it's now become one of the most iconic models out there. So that wraps up 10 in 10. I think we got close to the 10 minutes. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed doing it.